The mining station's emergency lights painted everything in hellish red as Commander Zara 9 of the Vexai Empire sprinted through the corridors. Her crystalline blue skin gleamed with sweat, and her forearms moved with deadly precision as she checked her plasma rifle's charge. The human raiders had finally come, just as intelligence predicted. After years of expanding into Vexai territory, the barbaric species had grown bold enough to attack their most valuable dilithium extraction facility. Zara had spent 3 cycles preparing for this moment. Every simulation, every tactical briefing had painted the same picture. Humans were savage, unpredictable creatures who showed no mercy to alien species. They fought with primitive projectile weapons and crude tactics, but their ruthless nature made them dangerous opponents. The Galactic Council's reports were clear. Wherever humans appeared, civilized species suffered. She pressed against the wall as another explosion rocked the station. Through her comm unit, she heard the panicked voices of her fellow Vexai defenders. The humans had breached the outer perimeter faster than expected. Their assault was coordinated and brutal, just like the stories from the Kepler incident where they had slaughtered an entire Zephyrian colony. Moving through the maintenance shaft, Zara's enhanced hearing picked up movement ahead. Heavy footsteps, different from the light padding of Vexai feet. Her training kicked in as she positioned herself at the intersection of 2 corridors. This was it. Her first encounter with one of the galaxy's most feared predators. The figure that rounded the corner matched every description she had memorized. Tall, bipedal, covered in strange fabric that seemed to shift colors. The human carried a long metal object that had to be one of their kinetic weapons. Its face was hidden behind some kind of protective mask, but she could see pale skin at the neck. Everything about its posture screamed danger. Zara raised her plasma rifle without hesitation. Every instinct told her to fire immediately. Humans killed first and never asked questions. They had proven this across dozens of worlds. The creature hadn't spotted her yet, moving with what looked like caution through the corridor. Her finger tightened on the trigger as training memories flooded back. Instructor Vel 3 had been clear during combat preparation. Humans show no quarter. They will kill you before you can blink. The only way to survive an encounter is to strike first and strike hard. The plasma bolt erupted from her rifle in a brilliant blue streak. The energy blast caught the human center mass, sending it crashing into the wall with a grunt of pain. Zara felt satisfaction surge through her as she watched the creature slide to the ground. One less monster to threaten innocent Vexai lives. But something was wrong. Instead of reaching for its weapon or calling for backup, the human raised one hand in what looked like a gesture of surrender. Its other hand pressed against the smoking hole in its chest armor, but it made no aggressive moves. "Wait," the creature said, its voice strangely calm despite obvious pain. "I'm not here to fight." Zara kept her rifle trained on the human, confusion mixing with suspicion. This had to be a trick. Humans were known for their deception. They probably used wounded soldiers as bait to lure defenders into ambushes. "Remove your mask," she commanded, keeping her voice steady despite her racing hearts. All Vexai had 2 hearts, and both were beating fast enough to power a small shuttle. The human complied slowly, pulling away the protective covering. Zara's finger nearly squeezed the trigger again when she saw its face. The features were alien, but somehow not monstrous. Pale skin, strange blue eyes, and hair the color of dried earth. What shocked her most was the complete lack of aggression in its expression. "My name is Marcus Chen," the human said, still holding one hand up while the other stayed pressed against its wound. "I'm a medic with the Terran Relief Corps. We received your distress signal." "Liar," Zara snarled. "Humans don't provide relief. You came here to raid our facility." Marcus winced as he shifted position, but his voice remained steady. "Check your long-range communications. Our ship, the Hippocrates, transmitted our medical certification codes before we docked. We're here to help evacuate wounded." Zara's mind raced. This made no sense. Everything she knew about humans painted them as aggressive predators, yet this one sat bleeding from her shot and spoke of medical assistance. It had to be an elaborate deception. Through her comm unit, she heard Lieutenant Kex 7's voice crackling with static. "Commander, we're receiving strange transmissions from the human vessel. They're broadcasting medical emergency protocols on civilian frequencies." "It's a trick," Zara responded, never taking her eyes off Marcus. "Humans don't help other species." "Actually," Marcus said softly, "we do, more often than you might think." Before Zara could respond, another explosion shook the station. This one felt different, more controlled. Through the corridor came the sound of voices, but they weren't speaking the harsh human language she expected. Instead, she heard Vexai civilians calling for help in their native tongue. "My team is working with your medical staff to stabilize the wounded," Marcus explained. "The plasma conduit explosion in Sector 7 trapped about 30 of your people. We've been cutting through debris for the past 2 hours." Zara's rifle wavered slightly. The timing was wrong. If this was a raid, why would the humans waste time with elaborate medical deceptions? Raiders wanted to grab valuable materials and leave quickly. "You shot me before I could identify myself," Marcus continued, a hint of pain creeping into his voice. "But I understand why. Our species haven't exactly had positive first meetings in other sectors." "The Kepler incident," Zara said. "Your people slaughtered thousands of Zephyrians." Marcus's expression darkened. "That wasn't the Terran government. That was the Crimson Fleet, pirates who happened to be human. We've been hunting them for months. My crew actually helped evacuate the survivors." Through her comm, Zara heard more reports filtering in. Vexai civilians being carried to safety. Human medical personnel working alongside Vexai doctors. Equipment being shared rather than stolen. None of this matched the intelligence briefings. "Why should I believe you?" she asked, though doubt was creeping into her voice. Marcus slowly reached into a pocket, moving carefully to avoid triggering another shot. He pulled out a small device that projected a holographic identification. The symbols were Terran, but the format matched standard Galactic Medical Authority credentials. "Because," he said, "believing the worst about someone doesn't make you safer. It just makes you miss the truth." Another message came through Zara's comm. This time it was from Chief Medical Officer Tren 4. "Commander, the human medical team has saved 17 lives in the past hour. Their surgical techniques are remarkably advanced." Zara stared at Marcus, her worldview beginning to crack. Everything she had been taught about humans was wrong. This creature, this person, had come to help her people, and she had shot him for it. "I made a mistake," she whispered. Marcus smiled despite his pain. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. 2 humans in medical gear appeared, carrying advanced first aid equipment. When they saw Marcus on the ground, both immediately focused on his injuries rather than reaching for weapons. "Marcus, what happened?" one of them asked, kneeling beside him. "Friendly fire incident," Marcus replied. "Nothing serious." Zara watched in amazement as the 2 humans worked to stabilize their teammate. No anger, no calls for retaliation, just professional medical care and concern for their injured colleague. "How bad is it?" she found herself asking. The female human medic looked up at her. "Plasma burns are serious, but we can handle it. Your medical bay has excellent regeneration equipment. With permission, we'd like to use it." Permission? They were asking permission to use Vexai equipment to save their own teammate. Raiders wouldn't ask permission for anything. "Of course," Zara said, lowering her rifle completely. "I'll escort you there personally." As the small group made their way through the station, Zara saw the aftermath of what she now realized wasn't an attack. Human and Vexai personnel worked side by side in the damaged sections. Advanced human medical equipment had been set up in the corridors to treat the most severely injured. In the main medical bay, she watched Dr. Sarah Kim, the human team leader, coordinate with Chief Medical Officer Tren 4. The 2 species' medical knowledge complemented each other perfectly. Vexai regeneration technology combined with human surgical precision was saving lives that would have been lost otherwise. "How did you know to come?" Zara asked Marcus as the medical team prepared to treat his injury. "We monitor emergency frequencies across this entire sector," he explained. "When we heard your distress call, we were the closest vessel with medical capabilities. It was standard protocol to respond." Standard protocol. Helping alien species in distress was standard protocol for humans. Everything Zara thought she knew about the universe was wrong. "The reports about your species," she said quietly. "They painted you as monsters." Marcus nodded sadly. "Fear makes people see monsters everywhere. We've been trying to change those perceptions, one rescue mission at a time." Dr. Kim approached with a concerned expression. "Commander, I need to ask you something. Marcus says this was an accident, but his injuries are consistent with an intentional close-range plasma attack. Zara felt shame wash over her like a cold wave. Here was her chance to lie, to cover up her mistake. But looking at these humans who had risked their lives to help her people, she couldn't bring herself to deceive them. "It wasn't an accident," she admitted. "I shot him because I thought he was a raider. I was wrong." The medical bay went quiet. Several Vexai personnel stopped what they were doing to stare. Dr. Kim's expression was unreadable as she processed this information. "You shot my medic because of his species?" she asked quietly. Zara nodded, unable to meet the human doctor's eyes. "I was taught that humans were dangerous predators. I believed that attacking first was the only way to survive an encounter." What happened next shocked everyone in the room. Instead of anger or demands for justice, Dr. Kim simply nodded with understanding. "Prejudice is a dangerous thing," she said. "It makes us see enemies where there might be friends. The important thing is that you're willing to admit when you're wrong." The generosity of the response left Zara speechless. She had shot one of their team members based on nothing but species prejudice, and they were treating it as a learning experience rather than an act of war. "Why aren't you angry?" she asked. Marcus answered before Dr. Kim could speak. "Because anger doesn't heal wounds or save lives, understanding does." Over the next several hours, Zara worked alongside the human medical team. She watched them treat Vexai patients with the same care and dedication they showed their own species. She saw Dr. Kim teach Vexai medics advanced surgical techniques while learning about Vexai regeneration medicine in return. When the emergency was finally under control, Zara found herself in the station's command center with Marcus and Dr. Kim. The human medic's injury had been successfully treated, though he would need several days of recovery. "I owe you an enormous debt," Zara said. "You saved dozens of my people's lives, and I repaid that kindness by shooting one of your team." "You don't owe us anything," Dr. Kim replied. "Helping people is what we do, but if you really want to make amends, help us change the narrative about human-alien relations." Zara looked at the reports streaming across her screens. Every piece of intelligence about humans that she had believed was being contradicted by what she had witnessed. These weren't savage raiders or heartless predators. They were doctors, medics, and humanitarian workers risking their lives to help strangers. "How many other species have been given false information about humans?" she asked. Marcus and Dr. Kim exchanged a meaningful look. "Too many," Marcus said. "There are forces in the galaxy that benefit from keeping species separated and suspicious of each other. Fear is a powerful tool for control." Zara felt anger building inside her, but this time it wasn't directed at humans. Someone had deliberately fed the Vexai Empire false intelligence about human behavior. Someone wanted the galaxy's species to remain divided and hostile toward each other. "Who benefits from this deception?" she asked. "That," Dr. Kim said grimly, "is what we're trying to find out." As the human medical team prepared to depart, Zara made a decision that would change everything. She activated her personal recording device and began documenting the truth about what had happened at the mining station. Her report would show Vexai Command exactly what kind of species humans really were. More importantly, it would raise questions about where their intelligence about humans had actually originated. Standing in the docking bay as the Hippocrates prepared to launch, Zara watched Marcus check his medical equipment one final time. Despite her attack on him, he bore no grudges and had even shared advanced medical techniques with the station's staff. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Marcus smiled. "The galaxy's a big place, but it has a way of bringing people together when they're needed most." As the human medical ship departed, Zara stood watching until it disappeared among the stars. She had made a terrible mistake that day, shooting an innocent person based on prejudice and fear. But somehow, that mistake had opened her eyes to a truth far more important than her own shame. Humans weren't the monsters she had been taught to fear. They were healers, helpers, and friends to any species willing to see past the lies that kept the galaxy divided. The question now was who had been spreading those lies, and why. Zara had a feeling that discovering the truth would be far more dangerous than facing any human warrior. But after what she had witnessed today, she knew that some fights were worth the risk. The real enemy wasn't the humans. The real enemy was whoever wanted to keep the galaxy's species from working together. and Zara was determined to find out who that was. 3 weeks after the mining station incident, Commander Zara 9 stood in the war room of the Vexhai command vessel Crimson Dawn. The holographic displays surrounding her showed disturbing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Her investigation into the false information about humans had uncovered something much larger and more dangerous than simple misinformation. "Show me the Andromeda sector reports again," she commanded her aide, Lieutenant Vel 12. The display shifted to show shipping manifests and communication logs from the Outer Rim territories. Pattern after pattern emerged that made Zara's dual hearts beat faster with growing alarm. Every incident blamed on human aggression had one thing in common. They happened in regions where the Hegemony Corporation had major industrial interests. The Hegemony Corporation was officially just a multi-species trading conglomerate. Unofficially, Zara was beginning to suspect they were much more. Their influence stretched across dozens of systems, and their private security forces rivaled many planetary militaries in size and equipment. "Commander," Vel 12 said nervously, "perhaps we should report these findings to Fleet Admiral Kex Prime before proceeding further." Zara shook her head. "Not yet. I need more evidence before making accusations against one of the galaxy's largest corporations." Her investigation had started simply enough. After Marcus Chen and the human medical team had saved so many Vexhai lives, Zara had begun questioning where the Empire's intelligence about human behavior had originated. What she discovered was a carefully constructed web of lies spanning decades. Every piece of anti-human propaganda could be traced back to hegemony-controlled media outlets or hegemony-funded research institutions. The stories about human savagery, the reports of unprovoked attacks, even the intelligence briefings given to military commanders like herself, all of it originated from sources connected to the corporation. The door to the war room opened, and Chief Intelligence Officer Tren 9 entered with a grim expression. "Commander, I have the information you requested about the Kepler incident." Zara turned her full attention to the intelligence chief. The Kepler incident was the event that had crystallized Vexhai fears about humans. Thousands of Zephyrian civilians had been killed in what was reported as an unprovoked human attack. "What did you find?" she asked. Tren 9 activated a new holographic display. The attack was indeed carried out by human vessels, but not by the Terran government. The ships belonged to a mercenary group called the Crimson Fleet. What's interesting is who hired them. The display showed financial records that had taken weeks of careful investigation to uncover. Shell companies, hidden accounts, and complex money trails that all led back to the same source. "Hegemony Corporation," Zara breathed. "It gets worse," Tren 9 continued. The Kepler system had just discovered one of the largest deposits of rare quantum crystals in the galaxy. The Zephyrian government was planning to auction mining rights to the highest bidder. Hegemony wanted exclusive access. Zara stared at the evidence with growing horror. The corporation had hired human mercenaries to massacre an entire colony, then used the incident to turn the galaxy against the human species. It was genocide used as a marketing tool. "How many other incidents were orchestrated by Hegemony?" she asked. "We've identified at least 17 separate events over the past 30 years, Tren 9 replied. "Always in systems with valuable resources, always blamed on humans, and always resulting in Hegemony gaining exclusive resource extraction rights." The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. An entire species had been systematically demonized to serve corporate interests. Worse, the real humans, people like Marcus Chen, who risked their lives to help others, were suffering for crimes they hadn't committed. "Commander," Vel 12 interrupted, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Terran vessel Hippocrates." Zara felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had sent a coded message to Dr. Sarah Kim 3 days ago, requesting a private meeting. If her suspicions about Hegemony Corporation were correct, the humans might be the galaxy's best hope of exposing the truth. "Put them through," she ordered. Dr. Kim's image appeared in the holographic display. The human doctor looked tired but determined. Behind her, Zara could see Marcus Chen working at a medical console, apparently fully recovered from his plasma injury. "Commander Zara," Dr. Kim said, "I received your message about needing to discuss matters of mutual concern. We're currently at the neutral station Crossroads Prime if you want to meet in person. Zara made a quick decision. I'll be there in 18 hours. Come alone and tell no one about this meeting. Lives depend on it. Dr. Kim's expression grew serious. Understood, we'll be waiting. As the transmission ended, Zara turned to her staff. I'm taking a personal transport to Crossroads Prime. If anyone asks, I'm conducting routine intelligence liaison duties. Commander, Tren 9 said carefully, if Hegemony Corporation is as powerful as these documents suggest, investigating them could be extremely dangerous. Zara thought about Marcus Chen, sitting wounded in the corridor after she had shot him, speaking about believing the best in people rather than the worst. Some things are worth the risk. 18 hours later, Zara found herself in a private meeting room on Crossroads Prime, a neutral space station that served as a trading hub for dozens of species. Dr. Kim sat across from her, with Marcus Chen providing medical scanning to ensure their conversation wasn't being monitored. The room is clean, Marcus reported. No surveillance devices or listening equipment. Zara activated her personal data pad and displayed the evidence her team had gathered. Dr. Kim's expression grew increasingly grim as she reviewed the financial records, communication intercepts, and incident reports. My God, the human doctor whispered, they've been using my species as scapegoats for decades. It's worse than scapegoating, Zara said. They've been actively commissioning attacks and then blaming humans for them. How many of your people have suffered because of false accusations? Marcus answered quietly, more than you can imagine. Human colonies have been attacked by alien forces seeking revenge for crimes we didn't commit. Our diplomats are refused audience with galactic governments. Trade agreements get canceled when species find out we're human. Zara felt the weight of guilt settling on her shoulders. Her own actions 3 weeks ago were a perfect example of how hegemony's propaganda had poisoned interspecies relations. There's something else, Dr. Kim said, activating her own data display. We've been investigating unusual patterns in medical emergencies across the galaxy. Accidents that happen right before major resource negotiations. Industrial disasters that somehow avoid areas with hegemony assets. The evidence was overwhelming when viewed together. Hegemony Corporation wasn't just spreading anti-human propaganda. They were actively creating the emergencies that their propaganda blamed on humans. We need to expose this, Zara said. But it has to be done carefully. Hegemony has influence in every major galactic government. Marcus leaned forward intently. What do you have in mind? A joint investigation, Zara replied. Vex-High intelligence resources combined with human medical records and incident reports. If we can build an airtight case, even Hegemony's political influence won't be enough to suppress the truth. Dr. Kim nodded slowly. It won't be easy. They'll try to discredit us, claim it's a human conspiracy to avoid responsibility for past actions. Then we make sure the evidence speaks for itself, Zara said. No claims, no theories, just documented facts that can't be disputed. Over the next 4 hours, the three of them outlined a comprehensive investigation plan. Zara would use Vex-High intelligence networks to track financial flows and communication intercepts. The humans would provide medical evidence and testimony from emergency response teams across the galaxy. There's one more thing we need, Marcus said. Testimony from survivors of Hegemony's staged incidents, people who can confirm that the attacks weren't carried out by official human forces. The Zephyrians from Kepler, Zara suggested. If any of them are still alive, their testimony would be invaluable. Dr. Kim's expression became pained. We've been treating Zephyrian refugees for months. Many of them still blame all humans for what happened to their colony. Getting them to trust us enough to share their stories won't be easy. I can help with that, Zara offered. If a Vex-High commander vouches for you, they might be willing to listen. As their meeting concluded, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. For the first time since the mining station incident, she believed that the galaxy's species might actually have a chance to work together instead of fighting each other. There's something I need to tell you both, she said as they prepared to leave. When I shot Marcus that day, it wasn't just because of false intelligence about humans. It was because I was afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things, and I let that fear control my actions. Marcus smiled gently. Fear is natural. What matters is what we do when we recognize our fear is based on lies. Exactly, Dr. Kim added. That's why exposing hegemony is so important. As long as they keep species afraid of each other, they can manipulate all of us. Zara returned to the Crimson Dawn with a new sense of purpose. Her investigation would continue, but now she had allies who understood what was at stake. More importantly, she had seen proof that cooperation between species was possible when fear and prejudice were set aside. The next phase of their investigation would be dangerous. Hegemony Corporation had resources and influence that could destroy careers or even eliminate threats entirely. But looking at the evidence they had already gathered, Zara knew they were on the right track. Her mistake in shooting Marcus Chen had led to this moment. Sometimes the worst decisions opened doors to the most important discoveries. The real question was whether they could expose the truth before Hegemony realized what they were doing. In her private quarters that night, Zara recorded a message for her family back on the Vexhai homeworld. She couldn't tell them about the investigation, but she wanted them to know that everything they believed about humans might be wrong. "The universe is not what we thought it was," she said to the recording device. "The enemies we feared might be friends, and the friends we trusted might be enemies. But that also means there's hope for something better than we ever imagined." As she settled down to sleep, Zara's last thought was of Marcus Chen's words. "Believing the best in people doesn't make you vulnerable, it makes you see the truth." Tomorrow, she would begin the most important mission of her career. Not destroying an enemy, but saving the galaxy from the lies that kept it divided. The real war was just beginning, and it would be fought with truth instead of weapons. Zara had never felt more ready for battle in her life. 6 weeks into their investigation, Commander Zara 9 stood in the refugee camp on Haven Station, watching Dr. Sarah Kim work with Zephyrian survivors from the Kepler massacre. The tent clinic was crowded with beings who had lost everything to what they believed was human savagery. Getting them to trust humans enough to reveal the truth about their attack would require more than medical care. "The therapy sessions are helping," Dr. Kim reported quietly to Zara. "But many of them still panic when they see human medical staff. The trauma runs deep." Zara observed a young Zephyrian named Kella 7 receiving treatment for chronic pain caused by injuries from the attack. Her iridescent scales had lost their natural shimmer, and her large eyes held a haunted expression that spoke of unspeakable loss. "Kella," Zara said gently, approaching the examination table. "I'm Commander Zara 9 of the Vexhai Empire. May I speak with you about what happened on Kepler?" The Zephyrian's head turned slowly toward her. Zephyrians were naturally empathic, able to sense emotional intentions through subtle bioelectric fields. Kella would know immediately if Zara was being dishonest. "You want to know about the humans who killed my family," Kella said, her voice hollow with remembered pain. "I want to know about the people who attacked your colony," Zara corrected carefully. "Were they definitely humans?" Kella's expression sharpened with confusion. Of course they were humans. They had human ships, human weapons, human faces. Dr. Kim approached slowly, moving carefully to avoid triggering panic. "Kella, I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. I know this is difficult, but can you tell us exactly what you remember about the attackers?" The Zephyrian's bioelectric field fluctuated with fear, but she didn't flee. After weeks of gentle medical care from Dr. Kim's team, some level of trust had developed. "They wore black armor with red markings," Kella said slowly. "Their leader had scars across his face and spoke with an accent I didn't recognize. He said they were taking our world in the name of human expansion." Zara and Dr. Kim exchanged meaningful glances. The details matched what they had learned about the Crimson Fleet mercenaries hired by Hegemony Corporation. "Did the attackers identify themselves as representing the Terran government?" Zara asked. Kella thought for a moment. "No, they said they represented human interests, but they never mentioned any specific government or organization." "That's important," Dr. Kim said gently. "Official Terran forces always identify themselves with government codes and authorization. These people sound like criminals using human identity to hide their real employers." Over the next hour, Kella shared her memories of the attack. What emerged was a picture of professional mercenaries carrying out a systematic operation designed to look like human aggression while avoiding anything that could be traced back to their real bosses. "There's something else," Kella said hesitantly. After the attack, representatives from Hegemony Corporation arrived very quickly to offer assistance. They helped evacuate survivors and provided relief supplies. How quickly? Zara asked. Within hours, almost like they were already in the system waiting. The pattern was becoming clear. Hegemony would commission an attack, then appear as humanitarian rescuers to gain the trust of survivors and governments. Their assistance invariably came with resource extraction agreements and exclusive trading rights. Kella, Dr. Kim said carefully, would you be willing to share this testimony with other species governments? Your words could help expose the truth about what really happened. The Zephyrian's bioelectric field fluctuated with fear and hope. If it would prevent this from happening to other families, yes. But who would believe the word of refugees against such a powerful corporation? You'd be surprised, Zara said, thinking of the evidence they had been gathering. Truth has a way of being more powerful than money when people are ready to hear it. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Marcus Chen, who was coordinating intelligence gathering on the station's command level. His voice carried tension that immediately put both commanders on alert. Dr. Kim, Commander Zara, we have a problem. I'm detecting Hegemony security vessels approaching Haven Station. They're requesting permission to dock for what they call a routine refugee welfare inspection. Zara felt her dual hearts accelerate. Hegemony had somehow learned about their investigation. The timing was too convenient to be coincidental. How long do we have? Dr. Kim asked. 30 minutes, maybe less, Marcus replied. They've got authorization from the station administrator. We can't legally refuse them access. Zara made a quick decision. We need to evacuate the key witnesses immediately. If Hegemony gets to them first, they'll either silence them permanently or discredit their testimony. The next 20 minutes were a controlled chaos of evacuation procedures. Kella 7 and 6 other Zephyrian survivors with crucial testimony were quietly moved to a Vexi transport vessel docked on the far side of the station. Dr. Kim's medical team destroyed sensitive records and prepared cover stories for their presence at Haven Station. Commander Zara, Marcus reported as they watched Hegemony security forces dock. I've uploaded copies of all our evidence to secure servers in 3 different star systems. Even if they capture us, the investigation can continue. Through the station's viewing ports, Zara watched the Hegemony team disembark. They wore the crisp uniforms of corporate security, but their equipment and movement patterns suggested military training. Leading them was a tall human male with familiar scars across his face. That's him, Kella whispered from the safety of the Vexi transport. That's the leader of the attack on my colony. Dr. Kim activated her recording device. For the record, Zephyrian survivor Kella 7 has positively identified the leader of the Hegemony security team as the same person who commanded the attack on Kepler Colony. The implications were staggering. Hegemony Corporation was using the same mercenaries who carried out their staged attacks as official security personnel. The scarred human who had massacred Zephyrian families was now wearing a corporate uniform and investigating refugee camps. We have enough evidence, Zara said firmly. It's time to take this to the Galactic Council. But even as she spoke, new complications arose. Station Administrator Trell 4, a nervous Andromedus official, contacted them with disturbing news. The Hegemony team is requesting access to all refugee medical records, he reported. They claim to be investigating potential terrorist activities among the survivors. Terrorist activities? Dr. Kim's voice carried outrage. These people are traumatized refugees who lost everything. The only terrorism here is what was done to them. Zara understood the strategy. Hegemony would label the survivors as terrorists, making their testimony unreliable in any legal proceeding. Any evidence of corporate wrongdoing would be dismissed as the desperate lies of discredited criminals. Administrator Trell, Zara said, I'm invoking Vexi diplomatic immunity for all refugees currently under our protection. Hegemony has no jurisdiction over them while they're in Vexi custody. The administrator's relief was palpable. Acknowledged, Commander. I'll inform the Hegemony team that their investigation is limited to station records only. Through her datapad, Zara watched the Hegemony team's leader react to the news with barely controlled anger. The scarred human's face twisted with frustration as his legal authority was suddenly curtailed. "He knows we're onto him," Marcus observed. "This was supposed to be a cleanup operation." Dr. Kim was already coordinating with her medical team to prepare for departure. "We need to get this evidence to the Galactic Council before Hegemony can arrange for it to disappear." "That won't be easy," Zara warned. "Hegemony has influence in the council chambers. They could suppress our evidence or discredit us before we even get a hearing." "Then we need to make the evidence public first," Marcus suggested. "Force the council to address it openly rather than burying it in committee." Zara considered the options. A public revelation would be dangerous for everyone involved. Hegemony wouldn't hesitate to eliminate threats to their operations, but keeping quiet would allow the corporation to continue manipulating galactic politics through staged atrocities. "There's another way," she said slowly. "We present the evidence to multiple species governments simultaneously, make it impossible for Hegemony to silence everyone at once." Over the next hour, they coordinated a complex plan. Dr. Kim would take the medical evidence and survivor testimony to the Terran government. Marcus would deliver financial records to the Andromedist Trade Authority. Zara would present military intelligence findings to the Vexhai Empire. Each piece of evidence would be released at exactly the same time, creating a coordinated revelation that Hegemony couldn't stop. "There's something you should know," Kella said as they prepared to execute their plan. "During the attack on Kepler, I overheard the mercenaries talking about their next target. They mentioned something called Project Synthesis." Zara felt a chill run through her. Project Synthesis was a classified Vexhai research initiative developing new forms of interspecies cooperation. If Hegemony was planning to attack that project and blame it on humans, the consequences could destroy any chance of galactic peace. "When?" she asked urgently. "They said it would happen during the next council session, when all the species representatives were gathered in one place." The timeline suddenly became critical. The Galactic Council was scheduled to convene in just 5 days to discuss trade agreements and territorial disputes. If Hegemony attacked the Vexhai Research Station during that time, they could frame it as human aggression aimed at disrupting peaceful negotiations. "We have to warn them," Dr. Kim said. "More than that," Zara replied, "we have to stop them." As the Vexhai transport prepared to leave Haven Station, Zara watched the Hegemony security team through the viewing port. The scarred leader was speaking into a communication device, his expression dark with fury. She had no doubt that he was reporting the failure of their cleanup operation. "This is going to get dangerous," she told her companions. "Hegemony won't let us expose them without a fight." Marcus smiled grimly. "Good thing humans have experience fighting against overwhelming odds." Dr. Kim checked her medical supplies, ensuring she had everything needed to treat wounded survivors during their journey. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the most difficult thing to do. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, Zara reflected on how much had changed since that day at the mining station. Her mistake in shooting Marcus had led to the discovery of a conspiracy that threatened the entire galaxy. Now, stopping that conspiracy would require the same kind of cooperation between species that Hegemony was trying to prevent. The irony wasn't lost on her. In trying to destroy interspecies trust, Hegemony had created the exact conditions necessary for different species to work together against a common enemy. Sometimes the greatest evil produces the greatest good, but only when people are willing to see past their fears and prejudices. The next few days would determine whether the galaxy's species could overcome decades of manipulation and mistrust. Zara had never faced longer odds, but she had also never felt more confident in her cause. Truth and courage had brought them this far. Now it was time to see if those forces were strong enough to defeat corporate greed and systematic deception. The real test was just beginning, and failure would mean continued war between species who should have been allies. But success would mean something even more precious. A galaxy where beings like Marcus Chen could help strangers without being shot for their kindness. 2 days before the Galactic Council convened, Commander Zara 9 stood in the war room of the Terran vessel Hippocrates, surrounded by holographic displays showing the most ambitious interspecies operation in galactic history. Representatives from 7 different governments had secretly gathered to coordinate their response to the Hegemony conspiracy, despite decades of mistrust between their species. The evidence packets are ready for simultaneous release, reported Captain Elena Vasquez, the Terran military liaison who had joined their operation. 37 major news networks across 12 star systems will receive the files at exactly 1400 hours Galactic Standard Time. Dr. Sarah Kim monitored communication frequencies from her medical station. Hegemony's corporate networks are showing increased activity. They know something is coming. Marcus Chen worked alongside VexHigh Intelligence Officer Tren 9, comparing the latest intelligence about Project Synthesis. What they had discovered was worse than any of them had imagined. "It's not just an attack," Marcus reported grimly. "Hegemony is planning to use biological weapons against the VexHigh research station, then claim that humans developed and deployed an illegal bioweapon. The evidence will be fabricated, but convincing enough to justify a galactic war crimes tribunal." Zara felt sick as she studied the intercepted communications. Hegemony's plan would not only destroy the research station and everyone aboard, but also provide legal justification for treating all humans as war criminals. Every human colony, every Terran civilian would become a legitimate target for retaliation. "How many people are at the research station?" Dr. Kim asked. 437 VexHigh scientists and support staff, Tren 9 replied, plus 62 civilians from other species participating in the cooperation project. Nearly 500 innocent lives would be sacrificed to maintain Hegemony's control over galactic politics. The scope of their evil was breathtaking. "Can we evacuate them?" Captain Vasquez suggested. Zara shook her head. "Any evacuation would alert Hegemony that we know about their plan. They'd just move to a different target and delay the attack until we're not watching." "Then we stop them at the source," Marcus said firmly. "We identify their attack fleet and intercept it before they reach the research station." The next 6 hours were spent in intensive planning. Intelligence assets from multiple species worked together to track Hegemony's military preparations. What emerged was a picture of meticulous planning spanning months. Hegemony had assembled a strike force of modified civilian freighters, equipped with military-grade weapons and biological warfare capabilities. The ships would approach the research station under false commercial identifications, then launch their attack when they were too close for the station's defenses to respond effectively. The lead ship is commanded by the same mercenary who attacked Kepler Colony, Kella 7 reported from her position at the intelligence console. Her testimony had been so valuable that she had been granted temporary security clearance to assist with the operation. Colonel Victor Rain, Captain Vasquez identified from the military database. Former Terran Special Forces, dishonorably discharged for war crimes. He's been working for Hegemony as a deniable asset for 8 years. Zara studied Rain's service record. The scarred human had once been a decorated soldier before crossing the line into mercenary work. Now he was leading operations designed to frame his own species for atrocities they hadn't committed. "There's something else," Dr. Kim said, reviewing medical files. "The biological weapon they're planning to use isn't human in origin. It's a modified VexHigh pathogen that would be harmless to most species but deadly to VexHigh physiology." The implications were staggering. Hegemony wasn't just planning to blame humans for the attack. They were using a weapon specifically designed to kill only VexHigh. The evidence would suggest that humans had developed targeted biological warfare capabilities and used them for genocide. "That's brilliant in its evil," Tren 9 observed with grudging admiration. "A weapon that only kills VexHigh would seem to prove human racial hatred, even though we know it was designed by Hegemony scientists." Captain Vasquez activated tactical displays showing the positions of available military assets. "We have a Terran patrol squadron in the Kepler sector, and Commander Zara's ship can be ready for combat operations within the hour. If we coordinate properly, we can intercept the attack fleet before they reach their target." "There's a problem with that approach," Marcus pointed out. "If Terran and VexHigh forces attack Hegemony ships together, it could be seen as proof that our species are secretly allied against galactic peace." Zara understood the dilemma. Their joint operation to stop Hegemony could be spun as evidence of the human VexHigh conspiracy that Hegemony claimed to be fighting against. They needed a solution that would expose Hegemony without seeming to confirm their propaganda. "What if we let them start the attack?" she suggested slowly. Dr. Kim looked at her in horror. You want to let them kill those people? No, Zara clarified. What if we let them begin the attack, document their use of biological weapons, and then stop them? If we can capture their ships with the evidence aboard, hegemony won't be able to deny their involvement. It was a dangerous plan that would require precise timing and considerable luck. They would need to allow the attack to begin long enough to gather evidence, but stop it before the biological weapons could be deployed. We'd need someone on the inside, Captain Vasquez said. Someone who could sabotage their weapons systems at the critical moment. Marcus stepped forward. I volunteer. The room erupted in protests from multiple species simultaneously. Dr. Kim was the most vocal. Absolutely not. You're a medic, not a special forces operative. Exactly, Marcus replied calmly. If hegemony discovers a spy on their ship, they'll expect a trained intelligence agent. They won't suspect a human medic who appears to be sympathetic to their cause. Zara studied Marcus's expression and realized he was serious. You'd be walking into a ship full of people who have spent years committing atrocities in your species' name, if they suspect you for even a moment. They'll kill me, Marcus finished. I understand the risks. Dr. Kim grabbed his arm. This is insane. We need you alive, not dead on a hegemony ship. Marcus gently removed her hand and smiled with the same calm confidence Zara had seen during their first meeting. Sometimes the best way to help people is to put yourself in danger for them. Over the next 4 hours, they developed an infiltration plan. Marcus would approach hegemony as a disillusioned Terran medic seeking to work with humans who weren't afraid to take strong action. His medical credentials would make him valuable for treating wounded mercenaries, and his species would make him seem trustworthy to Colonel Rain. The biological weapons are stored in a secured medical bay, Keller reported from intelligence analysis. If Marcus can access that area, he can sabotage the delivery systems without triggering security alerts. Dr. Kim supervised the preparation of specialized medical equipment that would serve dual purposes. Marcus's scanner would appear to be standard medical gear while actually functioning as a sophisticated sabotage device. His surgical tools had been modified to cut through specific types of containment systems. Remember, Captain Vasquez briefed him, your primary objective is disabling the biological weapons. Secondary objectives are gathering evidence and marking targets for our attack fleet. Do not attempt to be a hero. Marcus nodded seriously. I understand. As he prepared to depart for his infiltration mission, Dr. Kim pulled him aside for a private conversation. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. Can we? Marcus asked. In 6 hours, hegemony's fleet will attack that research station. 500 people will die, and my entire species will be blamed for genocide. This might be our only chance to stop it. Zara watched their interaction with growing respect for both humans. Dr. Kim's concern for her colleagues' safety and Marcus's willingness to sacrifice himself for strangers demonstrated the kind of character that hegemony's propaganda claimed humans didn't possess. There's something I need to tell you, Zara said to Marcus as he prepared to leave. When I shot you at the mining station, it was because I believed my species was superior to yours. I thought Vexhi were naturally more noble and peaceful than humans. Marcus looked at her with curiosity, and now? Now I think nobility and evil exist in every species, she replied. What matters isn't what you are, but what you choose to do with your life. Marcus smiled. That's probably the most human philosophy I've ever heard from a non-human. As his transport departed for the rendezvous with hegemony's fleet, Zara found herself praying to whatever forces govern the universe. The young human medic was walking into extraordinary danger to save people he had never met, from a species that had shown him nothing but hostility. He'll be all right, Dr. Kim said, though her voice carried doubt. He'd better be, Zara replied, because if Marcus fails, the galaxy might never recover from what hegemony has planned. The countdown to the attack had begun. In 6 hours, they would either expose one of the greatest conspiracies in galactic history, or watch helplessly as it claimed hundreds more innocent lives. Everything depended on a human medic's ability to sabotage biological weapons while surrounded by the very mercenaries who had spent years committing atrocities in his species' name. Zara had made a mistake when she shot Marcus Chen at the mining station. But that mistake had led to this moment, when the same person she had tried to kill was now the galaxy's best hope for peace. Sometimes the worst decisions created opportunities for the greatest good, but only when people were brave enough to risk everything for what was right. The next 6 hours would determine whether courage and truth were stronger than greed and manipulation. Zara had never believed in anything more completely than she believed in Marcus Chen's ability to do what needed to be done. The final battle for the galaxy's soul was about to begin, and it would be fought not with weapons of war, but with the simple human values of compassion and sacrifice that hegemony claimed didn't exist. If they succeeded, every species in the galaxy would owe their freedom to the same humans they had been taught to fear. The irony was perfect, and Zara hoped they would all live long enough to appreciate it. Marcus Chen stood in the medical bay of the hegemony mercenary vessel Retribution, his hands steady as he prepared synthetic medical supplies while internally mapping the locations of biological weapon containers. Around him, the ship buzzed with pre-battle tension as Colonel Victor Rain's crew prepared for what they believed would be their most profitable operation yet. "Dr. Chen," called Lieutenant Torres, one of Rain's trusted subordinates. "The Colonel wants to see you on the bridge before we begin the attack." Marcus nodded calmly, though his pulse quickened. His infiltration had been successful so far, with hegemony believing his cover story about being a disillusioned Terran medic seeking to work with real humans who weren't afraid to take decisive action. But face-to-face contact with Rain would be the ultimate test. On the bridge, Marcus found himself looking at the scarred face that had haunted Zephyrian nightmares for years. Colonel Victor Rain stood before a holographic display showing the Vexhai research station growing larger as they approached. "Dr. Chen," Rain said without turning around, "I want you to understand what we're about to accomplish here. This isn't just another operation. This is the moment when humanity stops apologizing for being the superior species." Marcus forced himself to nod enthusiastically. "I'm honored to be part of it, Colonel." "Good," Rain replied, finally facing him. "Because when this is over, every alien species in the galaxy will know that humans are not to be trifled with. The Vexhai have been spreading lies about us for years. Today, we show them the consequences." The twisted logic was breathtaking. Rain genuinely seemed to believe that attacking innocent researchers was somehow defending humanity's reputation, even though his actions were specifically designed to make humans appear monstrous. "The biological agents you'll be deploying," Marcus said carefully, "are they of human origin?" Rain smiled coldly. "Officially, yes. The chemical signatures will trace back to Terran research facilities. Unofficially, hegemony's scientists improved on some captured Vexhai pathogens. Poetic justice, really, using their own science against them." Marcus felt sick at the casual way Rain discussed genocide, but he maintained his cover persona. "Brilliant strategy, Colonel." "Report to the medical bay and prepare the deployment systems," Rain ordered. "We begin the attack in 30 minutes. Returning to the medical bay, Marcus activated the specialized scanner Dr. Kim had given him. The device quickly identified 12 separate biological weapon canisters hidden within standard medical storage containers. Each canister contained enough modified pathogen to kill hundreds of Vexhai. Working quickly but carefully, Marcus began the delicate process of sabotaging the deployment systems. The weapons were designed to be released through the ship's atmospheric processors during the attack, spreading the pathogen throughout the research station. By introducing microscopic metallic particles into the release valves, he could cause them to malfunction at the critical moment. "Dr. Chen," came a voice from behind him. Marcus spun around to find Lieutenant Torres watching him with suspicion. "I was just preparing the medical equipment as ordered." "Funny," Torres said, stepping closer, "because it looked like you were tampering with something." Marcus's mind raced. His cover could be blown, but maintaining it might be his only chance to complete the mission. "I was adjusting the pressure settings on the atmospheric processors. The biological agents need precise environmental conditions to remain effective." Torres studied him for a long moment. "Show me." For the next 10 minutes, Marcus demonstrated fictional adjustments to equipment that Torres didn't understand well enough to question. His medical expertise provided the perfect cover for his sabotage activities. "Satisfied?" Marcus asked. "For now," Torres replied, but his suspicion was clearly not entirely alleviated. As the lieutenant left, Marcus quickly finished disabling the biological weapon systems, but he knew his time was running out. Soon, someone would notice that the deployment systems weren't functioning properly. Through his communicator, he heard Rain's voice echoing throughout the ship. "All hands, prepare for combat operations. Target is in range." Marcus activated his concealed transmission device, sending a coded signal to Commander Zara and the waiting strike force. The message was simple: biological weapons neutralized, begin intervention. On the bridge view screen, the Vexhai research station appeared as a gleaming symbol of interspecies cooperation. Hundreds of scientists from multiple species worked together on projects that could benefit the entire galaxy. In minutes, Rain planned to destroy all of that in the name of corporate profit. "Begin the attack," Rain commanded. The Retribution's weapons opened fire on the research station's shields. Around them, 5 other hegemony vessels joined the assault, their modified civilian hulls hiding military-grade firepower. To any observer, it would appear to be an unprovoked human attack on peaceful researchers. "Deploy biological agents," Rain ordered. Marcus held his breath as technicians throughout the fleet attempted to activate the weapons systems he had sabotaged. One by one, failure reports came back to the bridge. "Sir, we're experiencing technical difficulties with the atmospheric processors. Biological deployment systems are not responding. Pathogen canisters appear to be compromised." Rain's scarred face twisted with fury. "How is this possible? Run diagnostics on all systems immediately." Through the chaos, Marcus saw his opportunity. The attack was beginning, the evidence of hegemony's involvement was being recorded, but the biological weapons had been neutralized. Now it was time for the cavalry to arrive. In the distance, hyperspace exits began opening as Terran and Vexhai vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The joint task force that Commander Zara had assembled appeared in perfect formation, surrounding the hegemony attack fleet. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Zara 9 of the Vexhai Empire," came the transmission. "You are engaged in an illegal attack on a civilian research facility. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." Rain stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How did they know? How could they have been waiting for us? "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving a general broadcast on all frequencies." Dr. Sarah Kim's voice filled the bridge, transmitted simultaneously across dozens of star systems. "Citizens of the galaxy, what you are witnessing is the exposure of a conspiracy that has manipulated interspecies relations for decades. The attack on the Vexhai research station was planned and executed by Hegemony Corporation mercenaries, not by the Terran government." As Dr. Kim spoke, evidence files were being broadcast across the galaxy. Financial records, communication intercepts, survivor testimony, and documented proof of Hegemony's role in dozens of staged incidents over the past 30 years. Rain's face went pale as he realized the scope of what was happening. "They know everything." "Colonel," Marcus said quietly, "it's over." Rain spun around to face him, understanding dawning in his eyes. You're not one of us." "No," Marcus replied, dropping his cover persona. "I'm exactly what I said I was. A medic trying to help people. The difference is I don't think helping people requires killing other people." Rain reached for his sidearm, but Marcus was faster. Years of emergency medical training had given him quick reflexes, and he disabled the colonel with a precise nerve strike before Rain could draw his weapon. Throughout the Hegemony fleet, similar scenes were playing out as the truth spread and individual crew members began to understand what they had really been part of. Many of Rain's mercenaries were humans who genuinely believed they were defending their species' interests. Learning that they had actually been destroying human reputation for corporate profit broke their loyalty instantly. "Attention Hegemony vessels," came Captain Vasquez's voice. "This is the Terran Vessel Constitution. We are prepared to accept your surrender and offer protection to any crew members who wish to testify about corporate misconduct." One by one, the Hegemony ships powered down their weapons and accepted surrender. The attack on the research station ceased, with minimal damage to the facility and no casualties among the researchers. Marcus found himself in the strange position of providing medical care to Colonel Rain, the man who had spent years committing atrocities in humanity's name. As he treated the colonel's injuries from their brief struggle, Marcus reflected on the irony of the situation. Why, Rain asked weakly, why save someone who tried to destroy your species? Because, Marcus replied, that's what humans actually do. We help people even when they don't deserve it. Over the next several hours, the extent of Hegemony Corporation's conspiracy became clear to the entire galaxy. The evidence broadcast by Dr. Kim and her colleagues was overwhelming and undeniable. Staged attacks, false flag operations, manufactured crises, and systematic manipulation of interspecies relations spanning 3 decades. Commander Zara stood on the bridge of her vessel, watching the aftermath of their operation. Around her, ships from 7 different species worked together to process evidence and take custody of hegemony personnel. The cooperation she witnessed would have been impossible just months earlier. Commander, reported Lieutenant Vel 12, we're receiving congratulations from governments across the galaxy. The Andromedus Trade Authority is freezing all hegemony assets. The Zephyrian Collective is calling for war crimes tribunals. Dr. Sarah Kim's image appeared on the communication screen, her expression tired but satisfied. Marcus is safe and en route back to our vessel. The biological weapons have been secured and will be destroyed under international supervision. How are the research station survivors? Zara asked. Shaken but unharmed, Dr. Kim replied. Ironically, the attack has actually strengthened their resolve to continue their cooperation projects. They're talking about expanding the program to include more species. Zara smiled, remembering her conversation with Marcus weeks earlier about believing the best in people rather than the worst. The attack meant to destroy interspecies cooperation had instead demonstrated why such cooperation was necessary. There's something else, Dr. Kim continued. We're receiving applications from hundreds of humans who want to join legitimate relief and medical organizations. Marcus's actions have inspired a lot of people to prove what humanity really stands for. The irony was perfect. Hegemony's conspiracy had been designed to keep species separated and suspicious of each other. Instead, its exposure had created the largest volunteer humanitarian movement in galactic history. 3 days later, Marcus Chen stood before the Galactic Council, giving testimony about Hegemony Corporation's crimes. Around the vast chamber, representatives from dozens of species listened to his account of the conspiracy that had manipulated their fears for decades. The greatest tragedy, Marcus concluded, isn't what hegemony did to individual species. It's what they prevented us from accomplishing together. How many problems could have been solved if we had been working together instead of fearing each other? In the audience, Commander Zara watched with pride as the human medic she had once shot delivered testimony that would reshape galactic politics. Her mistake at the mining station had led to this moment, when the truth finally overcame decades of lies. After the testimony, Zara found Marcus in the Council's medical bay, where he was providing free care to delegates from species that had never interacted with humans before. No regrets, she asked. Marcus smiled as he treated a minor injury on a young Andromedus diplomat. About stopping genocide and exposing corruption, not a single one. I meant about the risk you took, Zara clarified. You could have been killed infiltrating that ship. So could you, Marcus pointed out. So could Dr. Kim, Captain Vasquez, and everyone else who chose to do the right thing instead of the safe thing. Zara nodded, understanding. Sometimes the most dangerous thing to do is also the most necessary thing to do. Exactly, Marcus replied. Besides, someone once told me that believing the best in people doesn't make you vulnerable. It makes you see the truth. As Zara prepared to return to her ship, she reflected on everything that had changed since that day at the mining station. Her mistake in shooting Marcus had taught her that fear and prejudice could make anyone into a monster. But more importantly, it had shown her that courage and compassion could turn anyone into a hero. The galaxy would never be the same. Species that had been enemies were becoming allies. Corporations that had profited from division were being held accountable for their crimes. And humans, the species once feared as savage predators, were being recognized as some of the galaxy's most dedicated healers and helpers. Commander Zara 9 had made a terrible mistake when she opened fire on Marcus Chen. She had shot an innocent person based on lies and propaganda, but she had never regretted making that mistake, because it had led to the truth that set the galaxy free. Sometimes the worst decisions create opportunities for the greatest good. Sometimes shooting someone by mistake can save the universe from perpetual war. And sometimes the people you think are your enemies turn out to be exactly the friends you needed most. The alien girl had opened fire on the human, mistaking him for a foe. In the end, she never regretted it because that single moment of violence had created a lifetime of peace. The galaxy was finally ready to become what it always should have been, not a collection of species fighting for dominance, but a community of beings working together toward something greater than themselves. And it all began with one simple truth. Humans, like all species, were capable of both great evil and great good. What mattered was which one you chose to believe in and which one you chose to become.